In this video, I'm going to address some common mistakes I see time and time again with new comedians starting out. Whether you're structuring your set or you're trying to get that big impact from one joke, or else you're just trying to find your own unique voice, I think this video is going to benefit you. I've been doing this 24 years and there's not a comedian I cannot help. So before we get into the theory of this video, if you're already performing out there and you have a set recorded up to 10 minutes long, I would love to check it out. I am offering a positive critique from this channel. If you want to help out the channel and also benefit as a comedian, then I urge you to jump into the description box, send me an email, and I would love to hear from you and help you out. Alright, let's jump into it with today's video, all about making a tight 5-minute set. How can we pack a punch at the beginning? How can we get laughs consistently? And how can we find their own unique voice and leave them remembering who we are? It's actually not rocket science, and it's easier than you think. But of course, most of us make a lot of mistakes. And the one mistake I see popping up when I do these critique videos time and time again is we are not giving them enough chances to laugh at the material. That is the single biggest problem I see rising with new comedians. We have a lot to say, and we have that story about ourselves that was so funny in our own heads, or the time we went on this trip, or the time we were in hospital for that specific thing, and all the things that we have overcome in our life that we want to dying to tell people on stage, but we just forget to put the funny in. And so 2 minutes into your set, you're wondering, why aren't they finding this funny? I find it humorous. Well, you have to spoon feed the audience these moments to laugh. And by following the correct stand-up comedy way, by ticking all the basic boxes, you're going to benefit, you're going to get them to laugh. So that brings me to kind of tip number one, which is the importance of structure. Now, it's said over and over again that you have to structure a set with the setup followed by the punchline. I kind of am going to assume that the person watching this video right now, that's you already kind of know that, and there's no point in me beating on about it. But here's what we don't think about when we think of structure. We think, yeah, I've got the setup and then the punchline, but the punchline's way over here. And the setup, well, I have to tell them that, and I have to tell them this, and of course I have to tell them this, otherwise that joke won't work. If that's the kind of joke that you have created, it's not going to work. If you have to tell them more than 2 pieces of information in order for the joke to work, in order for that punchline to bounce, it's just not worthy. It's not worth it. The punchline needs to be written out again. We need to give them as little information as possible. And that goes for the entire set too, not just for one-liners. That goes for your whole set. Do you walk up on stage at a 5-minute set and want to cover 5 topics of your life? 5 things you do. It's just simply too much. We need to understand something. Every time the audience learns something, anything at all for that matter, every time, that gives us an opportunity to make them laugh, and we should be taking it. We should reward the audience for listening to us by making them laugh. And I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say I walk up on stage and I say to the audience, hey, my name is Gary, I'm from Dublin, I met my wife in London, and now we live in Spain. And the last day in Spain, we were at the zoo, and this funny thing happened. And then I go on talking about the zoo. Fair enough. That's fine. I mean, it's not the worst material ever, but I've kind of bored half the audience to death, and I've made them work incredibly hard. If I walk up on stage and say my name is Gary, I'm from Ireland, and boom and boom and more information, I'm forgetting that they're not only learning about me the information that I tell them, they also learn how I am on stage, how I sound in the microphone, and all of these things are different from the last act that was on. So it takes them a little while to get used to my pacing and the presence I bring on stage. And that goes the same for every single act that ever comes on stage. And then we think about what I say. Well, I said I was from Ireland, then I said I met my wife in London, and then I said now we live in Spain. Look at the amount of material I just jumped over and didn't let the audience in on. So I'm Irish. What can I say about that? So instead of just going up on stage and saying, well, I'm from Ireland, what I used to do is, my name is Gary. I suppose I'll tell you a little bit about myself, seeing as we're trying to get on board here. I suppose I drink a lot of Guinness. I throw the first punch, and I'm always feeling ashamed. To put it briefly, I'm from Ireland. And it's silly. It's kind of my kind of humor. And and if I did it correctly enough, and I took my time a little longer than I was in this camera, and I was connecting with the audience behind my word, a little bit of eye contact here and there, a little bit of more facial expressions, I can get away with getting a little laugh out of, I suppose I should tell you a little bit about myself, seeing as we're all trying to get along. Right, that might get a little tiny chuckle. It's not going to be hilarious, but it might break the ice a little bit with a few people. And then I drink a lot of Guinness, right? I'll test the room out because it's not technically a funny line. Can I say that line in a funny way? Can I drag out some humor? And then I'll go, I throw the first punch. That's going to get a little bit of a laugh. That's a little out there. I know if I set them up and I try and get a little giggle out of the first two lines, I know that one is going to get a bigger laugh. And then I'm always feeling ashamed. That's going to get a smaller laugh, but it's still going to be consistent. So now I've got a few little pocket laughs, and then to put that briefly, I'm from Ireland. I hope that's going to get the biggest laugh of the pack. Is it going to kill the room and blow the roof off the place? No, most likely not. It's not that bloody great, but it's a good demonstration, as rather than saying I'm from Ireland and moving on, it's a whole bit. And now I've established myself as someone who's kind of cheeky, someone who's not able to take the piss out of themselves, and a little bit humorous. And then we go on from there. And it's not necessarily a big moment. And that's the important thing. There doesn't need to be big moments. There doesn't need to be the one big joke. Sure, you're going to come across that in your writing. The more you start to draw a more vivid picture in their minds after every time you tell them something, you are going to uncover absolutely incredible moments and incredible punchlines. But what you're also going to uncover on the way is loads of small humorous bits throughout. And here's the secret that they don't tell you. The more you make them laugh consistently, doesn't matter how loud the laughs are, if you can make them laugh consistently throughout your entire set, they are going to remember you more fondly than the comedian that made them laugh bigger but less of it. It's just the way it is. If you can entertain me for 5 minutes and make me laugh, like, you know, every few seconds, certainly every 10 seconds, you're making me chuckle at something that's funny, that's a phenomenal set, and that's the set you should be trying to work towards. Yes, you're looking for those big moments, but when the big moments aren't there, you need to be finding pockets of laughter with people throughout the entire night. And that's really showing the audience that you're playing ball, and you take the ball and you run with it, and you want to make the night better for everyone. It's a very important thing in stand-up comedy. You don't want to make it look like you don't care about their entertainment and care more about getting through your material or expressing your opinion on a particular thing or getting to the end of a particular story. None of that matters as long as the audience are happy. So if you need to sacrifice something halfway through, you should, because it's about being in the moment on that stage, which is why so many times I tell people on this channel, you've heard me say it, your very first open mic experience is not about being as funny as you can be. I would nearly argue that the 20th time you're on stage at an open mic, it's not about being the funniest you can be. You're there to play, and sometimes it's not going to work out, but you're going to learn more off just playing with the audience and realizing, paying attention to yourself as where the vibe is going with the night. And if you can do that every time, as well as sticking to a little bit of material and not taking it too seriously and getting through a few good jokes that you know work and making sure you have a little bit of headroom, a little bit more time to come up with things on the spot, right? Put yourself under a little bit of pressure now and then. If you do it like that, you're going to benefit really, really quickly. You're going to progress really, really quickly. Because if you keep pushing yourself and you keep feeling that little bit of fear in your stomach of, oh God, I'm in unknown ground now, unknown territory, well, you're going to become a performer in no time, rather than just a person on stage thinking to get through all of the material as quickly as possible. Let's move on. So we've covered the structure, right? And I think we've established the fact that we want to make them laugh as often as possible, as consistent as possible. I've given you an example of how you can do so every time you tell them something. So to go back to my example, I gave you what I used to say rather than just saying I'm from Ireland. I gave you the little piece of material. And then if I was to go on, okay, girlfriend's wife is from London, I would stop there. I was in London, right? I used to live in London. I wouldn't even bring her into the story yet. What can I say about an Irish man living in London, right? Where is all the jokes that can be had with that? And there's countless, right? It doesn't matter where in the world you live. If you ever spend time in another place, that's material that the audience in front of you will want to hear about, regardless of where you are performing it. It's just such easy material. Anyone from any place in any other place, you can make fun of the differences, and that is easy ground. Even if you've just traveled there on holiday, it's material waiting to get out. If you write down in front of you just anything that happened on holiday, anything that happened when you visited any place for any amount of time, there's so much to be said about the differences you noticed in their culture to your culture. It could be 10 minutes up the road to where you were from, or it could be across the entire earth. It doesn't really matter. The material is the same. The technique of the material is the same. You take an experience you had over there and you say, that would never happen in my hometown because in my hometown we do it like this, and then you can uncover the funny there. Or the similarities between your people and my people, and you can get some absurd connection. Doesn't matter how you go about connecting it. That's up to you in your own creative way and in your own style. But the connection is always something that's going to be humorous in front of an audience. So this is all about how we get unique as well, right? I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. I mentioned that cover uniqueness. And you might be thinking, yeah, but it's this, the styling is all basic. If we just all follow the basics, how can we be unique? But that's it. I find when people try to set out to be unique, when people try and sit down and start to writing, and I'm going to be so crazy and I'm going to be this, they miss the point. The more you can talk about mundane, day-to-day experiences, the more unique you become. If you look at up-and-coming comedians who are good, a good example, if you watch Kill Tony, right? If you look at somebody acts there that are good, they are always another thing. They were always unique. The ones that do well are unique. And they have a very good understanding and a very good ability to explain themselves. But the material they're covering is not way out there. It's very just normal. It might be bizarre how normal or how... It's almost like you would nearly tell a different performer if they're going on with the same material, oh no, don't do that. That's not going to work because it's just so normal. But if you can write normal material, normal jokes about your relationship, about the things you notice day to day, about your experience in the shop, about the time you were at the airport and you felt this about something that you feel, and you make it as personal, but you make it basic. You put yourself in the scenarios that everyone has always been in. They all have a story to tell about all of these areas of life. And you do the same, and you keep rewriting those stories that everyone has lived through. That's how you become a unique act. It's not describing a thing you did that nobody else does, because you're giving them too much information in their own head to think about. And that's never going to be good. If you tell me that you do something that has the craziest job description to it, well, I am asking myself too many questions about you, and I'm not listening to your punchline. If you want to get the laughs quicker, give them less to think about. Explain something about yourself that doesn't need any other explanation, and you will be fine because you can get to the punchline much faster. Okay, so wrap it up. What I want you to do now is go and write a set. Start by writing a little piece of information about yourself. And then just start adding the jokes. Every time you have a piece of information, What can you say about it to turn it on its head? What can you come from a different angle? Can you come from a different perception? Can you put an object in there and give it a personality? Can you bring in a fictitious person and describe them and have them be in a story with you over this one particular thing? Creative writing is just that. It's get creative. Do it yourself. You don't need any examples, because any joke you can come up with, if you perceive it to be a joke, it's funny, it's a joke. But it mightn't be as good as it needs to be on stage. But that's what the open mic is there for. You go on stage, you try out all these jokes that are rubbish, and you find that, oh, a few of them are actually not all that bad. Okay, so now you know which ones are the ones that you should dig deeper in. And then so you dig deeper in them, and before you know it, when you keep rewriting the same set that you ever wrote, you keep rewriting it, the set becomes stronger. You don't even need to learn anything about joke writing. You just already have it. You just dig into any time you give them information, you make a little joke about it. When you go on stage with all the jokes, you find the ones that work well and you do more of that style. And you just keep doing it. And don't have the fear of failing. Of course you have a bit of nerves. That's great. That's fantastic. That's what, gets you hungry. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And I suppose they are. So you may as well join them. See you in the next video.